Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please?
Are you ready? Are you ready?
Yo, what up, what up? It's your boy Rubino.
And this DJ in the building.
And you listening to the UpNUp Podcast.
Yeah.
Wait, what are we doing?
I don't know, just listen.
Yes. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen.
What it do?
You're tuned into the UpNUp Podcast. I'm your host, Rubino.
And I'm DJ man.
How you doing, man?
I'm good.
You good?
Yeah.
Trying to wake your game up?
Yeah.
I know, man.
Already woke.
You had a long night last night, right?
Nah, I ain't gonna talk about that.
Yeah, man. For those of you tuning in for the first time, this is the UpNUp Podcast. Hence the name UpNUp. We're a platform created to cultivate the culture. Share amazing stories of individuals who are grinding, going after what they want, living life on the up and up, and letting nothing get in the way of that, right?
For sure.
Now I do also want to shout out all the supporters, the listeners, the viewers, and all that continuous support. We appreciate it. Make sure to rate, subscribe, review. You can catch all our episodes on YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes, all that.
Yeah, all that. And like it too.
Yeah, man, definitely. I love getting the reviews, man. They keep coming in, and we get some good insight on how these stories are affecting our listeners, right?
Yeah.
Now, we always come with the guest, right? A guest with a great story and who's doing something amazing, not just in the city but beyond that. And today's guest, I would say she's a woman who's taking matters into her own hands when it comes to this thing we call fashion. A true visionary who's keeping everything she's doing on the up and up. All right. Obviously, she wouldn't be in that seat if not. I would say a positive representation for women who are aspiring to go into entrepreneurship or, jump into the business field in that space alone. And she is the CEO and owner of SBK Seattle Clothing, also by Keeping Up with Cam. Our guest is none other than the ambitious, creative, and boss chick herself, Camille Brown. Can we get a round of applause?
Appreciate it.
Yes.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. Thank you for coming. How are you doing?
I'm good.
Good? Chilling?
I'm a little sleepy today.
Yeah, man. Why is everybody like...
I don't know.
Shit,
it's the Tuesday vibe.
I've been up all day, man. I'm ready. I've been ready for this interview. Been ready to tap in with you. So hopefully we can wake your game up, and you too.
I'm woke, man. I try to tell you.
Yeah, so to give you kind of some insight, when we usually start our show, we have a quote of the day.
Cool.
Something to get the vibe right, get our minds right. And, my guy right here, he's a wordsmith. He always brings the quotes, So what you got for us, man? I need that inspiration. Come on.
This one's pretty interesting. But so the quote is, fashion fades, but only style remains the same. I don't know. That just got me thinking. I was like, that's pretty interesting. So.
Is that an anonymous quote or?
Nah, Coco Chanel.
I was going to say
you
it.
know?
I was like, I don't know if he's going to say that or not. I know a lot of Coco quotes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Shout out Coco Chanel.
Yeah.
So say that again. So fashion
fades,
but style remains
the same.
I like that. Now, we bring in a quote because we always try to get something out tying directly to our guest story. And for what you're doing with SBK Clothing and everything you've built up until this point, we do want to dive into that, but we also want to give you a chance to kind of talk about the upbringing and how it started for you. So if you can, where did you grow up and how was that for you, if you can?
Okay. Perfect quote, by the way, because I do love Coco Chanel, so I think that's going to tie into my whole thing perfectly. I was born and raised in the CD. Both my parents are from Philly. My dad got here in the Navy. My mom moved here when she was a kid.
Okay.
So I grew up going back to the East Coast in the summers. So I feel like I kind of have a little bit of an East Coast vibe when it comes to certain things, but I'm very much Seattle rooted. So growing up in the city, I feel like it's a pride thing. And I've also lived all over Seattle. I've never lived outside of a Seattle zip code, which I think is pretty cool because a lot of people you have to move or your parents move or whatever the case is. My mom's always been a stickler to try to stay in Seattle, so I've never lived outside of a Seattle area code. So I think that's cool.
Yeah.
And it's also just adds a different, like, if you go to another city or another state, they don't understand how big Seattle is to us.
Yeah.
We feel like it's the world.
Yeah.
Going somewhere else, it's like really small.
Yeah.
So I think how I was raised, my mom didn't have a lot of money. I'm an only child of a single mother. My dad was kind of in and out. So obviously, like, similar story like a lot of people have.
Yeah.
You want everything. You want more. You want designer. You want
Yeah.
all the shoes. You want gold and
Yeah.
diamonds and all that stuff. So early age, I feel like money just became a concept to go get it in any way, shape, or form. Probably the first job I got was like babysitting at 8 years old.
Yeah.
And I had a CPR license then.
At
So
8 years old?
I think I took a CPR class. My mom was taking it. I watched all the stuff. And then when
Wow.
I was probably 10, I could get the official card. And so then I was showing people like, no, I could really babysit your kid. I took a CPR class. And then they're like, okay, we'll pay her. So my rates went from like $14 to $20 an hour.
Hold up.
Damn.
Let me find out.
I would be hanging out with my friends, like, let's go downtown, and I have 2 kids with me because I'm babysitting at the same time. So my rip and run rhythm and trying to get money in those type of ways is just like, I could sit right now and think like, I have nothing to my name. How am I going to make some money? That doesn't mean it's going to happen overnight or
Yeah.
magically,
Yeah.
but I have that in me.
That
So-
hustler spirit. That's
Right.
what they
Yeah.
call it, I think.
Right.
That's what's up.
Yeah.
So what made you dip into like fashion? Like,
When I was like the same age, I think when I was 7, I wrote in my diaries like every day I want to be a fashion designer. But like a thing that I would write that's maybe different from a young, wealthy 7-year-old is I would write, I want the stuff to be affordable so everybody can buy it. So that's stuff like my mom's a teacher. My mom tells her students things like that because it's like from that age, those are pivotal moments in your life because now I think that same way. Like, I want my clothes to be affordable. I want people to be able to buy my stuff and everybody to have it. So if I thought that way when I was 7, they say like up to 7 years old, that's when you're pretty much developing who you are as a human being.
Yeah.
So I believe that 1,000%.
Oh, okay.
That's important though,
Yeah.
man. I think, for a lot of us who are at this age we're at now, it's important to tell the youth that though, right?
Right.
To explore your interests. And we talk about that shit all the time. Like, they have to know, they don't have to know exactly what it is they want to do, but they definitely got to explore.
You got to have an idea. Like,
Yeah.
when I was that age, I knew what a paleontologist is. I could probably ask a couple 7-year-olds, they might not know. My grandma taught me a lot of stuff and would tell me big words and things like that and just have me figure it out. So a paleontologist, to the blind eye, you dig up some bones. So when I was that age, I'll be like, okay, sometimes I want to be a paleontologist, and then I also want to be an engineer, and I want to learn how to fly planes, and then I want to be a fashion designer. So if your brain works like that at a young age, when you get older, you think college and business and this and that, and you have your mind open to all those other avenues. So for me, going to college wasn't exactly the route or the best route.
Yeah.
And so if kids, I don't necessarily say encourage not going to college.
Yeah.
But if you start their minds thinking they can be everything they want to be instead of just something, it's a whole
Yeah.
different path.
It's
a whole different life.
like, for me, I feel like it's just putting value on yourself. Like,
Right.
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, again, college isn't the route for everybody.
Right.
But you gotta have conviction in anything you're doing, right? And sometimes college is that space where people figure it out. You know what I mean? So I'm glad you did mention that. Now I do kind of want to get into. So we talked about how you got into fashion. The name SBK. What's the story behind that? Because I feel like that's one of the biggest things you can do before you start any company or any brand is coming up with that name. So
Yeah.
what's the story behind that?
Well, I have like some embarrassing pictures from when so the first shirts that I ever printed was at like a print store on Broadway.
Okay.
I have a shirt that's like the back of a camera on CD. My mom got it made for me because I liked the camera and it was my birthday, whatever.
Shout out Cam.
So, right.
Dipset.
And he
Yep.
actually liked the picture when I posted. So I think stuff like that is dope because I still have it. But then I would like draw stuff up and get it printed for like a school dance and things like that. So I never thought of like make shirts to sell them. I always thought like just get enough money to own a clothing line and make your clothes. So I think the first shirts that I did was like right out of high school, and I just had in my mind they're gonna be really girly and they're gonna be really cute, but they're also gonna be kind of thuggy, and like the concept was just all over the place.
Yeah.
So the name was Brass Knuckle Barbie Dolls.
Brass knuckle Barbie dolls. That's edgy.
Right.
Yeah.
So I made some shirts. I got them printed up. I have some really like tacky pictures in the shirts. They were very pink. They were very loud. And then, thank God, I was like, no, I don't know. Maybe I should think a little harder. And I did, and I got in my notebook, and my boyfriend kind of helped me think and brainstorm. And so I ended up coming with, I still wanted brass knuckles. So, like, I have a brass knuckle tattoo right here. A lot of people, like, think it's weird, but my aunt got breast cancer, so it has her name underneath.
Okay.
Originally, I wanted the breast cancer ribbon in the knuckles. So I have a necklace that has
Got you.
the ribbon, the knuckles, the whole thing.
Yeah.
But I don't really focus on it as like, oh, that's a sad tattoo. She's alive and she's well. But for me, it was like a fighting time. And so I thought about it that way. And so that's what goes into my name. So sweet brass knuckles, the combination is like, if a human being looks tough on the outside, but they're a sweetheart on the inside. If a human being looks sweet on the inside, but they have so much conviction and drive and hustle behind them, it's kind of like the oxymoron of a person and a human being's, they're inside and out, not being like something that you can just coin.
Yeah, it's
So
that
that's what
balance
that
too. Finding that balance. Everybody got that fight in them,
Right.
you know,
Yeah,
and then
for
they got that, you know, I'm a chill, you
Right.
know?
So it's a little
I'ma
less
chill.
aggressive than
Yeah.
I guess brass knuckles are. So I kind of have gone away from putting so much brass knuckles with my logos and things like that. But like that's the behind the scenes meaning for it.
No, and I love asking that question for people who have brands and why they come up with the names they come up with, you know. So that's interesting. And so I guess we got a good segue here because we're talking about fighting, right? We're talking about fighting for your dreams. I'll say that. Now, you being a woman in business, right? And historically is male dominant, that whole space, right? What kind of mentality did you have to develop before you jumped into this venture with SBK to know that, okay, you know, I am a woman, I am in this industry, or I'm in the business field where obviously, you know, women don't get as many shots as they should.
Right.
So what was that mentality like for you? How did you develop that?
2013 is when I got my first business license. I was working at Nordstrom. So I think for me, I wasn't really even thinking of it as much as I do now on a daily basis. I wasn't thinking like, oh, I'm doing something different. I just thought, you like this, do it. This is a stepping stone, because it's still, to me, this is a stepping stone to manufacturing and creating my own garments. This is just a piece of what I want to do. So while I'm working, I worked at Nordstrom and I had a full-time position. I was a department manager, so I worked 5, sometimes 6 days a week. And in that position, I was the youngest person in my store to be a department manager. I got like a $52,000 salary position before I was 21. So I was really excited about that, but at the same time, I felt like I could always do more, and I always had to prove something every single day at work, because somebody would say she's not old enough, or she doesn't know what she's doing, or this young black girl shouldn't be trusted with all these people's jobs and all this money.
Yeah.
So I felt like that was more where I was like fighting to prove something. Making shirts was just like, are people gonna like them or not?
Yeah.
And if they don't, then I got some extra shirts. That's kind of how I started it, and so that kind of started with me really, can I cuss on here?
You could do what you want. Go ahead.
That kind of started my like, I don't give a fuck type of attitude.
Yeah.
Because if I made something, I just didn't really care if people were gonna eat it up or not. And then when they did, that made me feel better. Like, it complimented my ego, but at the same time, I wasn't in it for money from jump. I had a job, my bills were being paid with that. So for how I started is not how everybody's gonna start.
Yeah.
If I was starting now, because right now I have no job. This is my hustle. This is my day-to-day. So now it's like, fuck everybody and what everybody else is doing. I'm not a male or female or anything else. I'm a business person. And here's where I'm at, and here's where I'm trying to be.
Got you.
So I think the most important thing for a female to do is, like, don't be intimidated by other people, male or female. Don't let your feelings and emotions get guarded, because female, we're emotional.
Yeah.
So we could be like, oh my God, nobody likes my stuff.
Yeah.
And like,
Yeah.
not getting any likes.
Yeah.
And like, my friends aren't buying it. That's not my situation, because all my friends, all my family support me and support my brand. I have cousins and stuff that's from the South End, and they're like, I'm not gonna buy the CD stuff, but I'll buy everything else. And I got you. So love comes with your genuine personality and who you are. But at the same time, you just gotta go like balls deep into the game and not care who cares.
Yeah, I mean, it's art.
Right.
You know, when it comes to art, like, at the end of the day, you gotta like it first.
Yeah, if you're painting a picture, do you care if everybody likes it, or do you have fun painting it?
Yeah, you can't. You can't. Definitely. I think, and I think that's interesting that you brought that up, because I do want to talk about kind of maybe some obstacles you did face. Because when we bring people on the show, obviously you guys are established. You guys are doing what you're doing, right? And a lot of your supporters and following only see that side. They only see the result. They only see you guys posting pictures of models. They only see you guys showing your catalog or what you guys have to offer. But the story behind it, I want to get to kind of maybe some obstacles you face along the way, because everybody has that resistance they go through, you know. Can you reference any times or moments early on or even currently that, you know, where obstacles did occur?
I don't think there would be enough time to talk about the obstacles. No, real talk
it's
though.
real though.
So, like, me and my friends do, we have Ladies Who Hustle, which is a whole separate group that we do entrepreneurship workshops and events where we talk about these type of topics.
That's dope.
I definitely always touch on the same thing every time, which is kind of time management mixed with to-do lists. And so for me, it was really hard when I had a full-time job. I worked in Tacoma for 3 years, and I've worked in almost every Nordstrom in the region. So switching positions or switching jobs, switching employees, switching how much money you're making and then making sure that's enough, having family aspects and friends and relationships and all that stuff, and then, you just got 3 orders. You're excited about that, but do you have time to take those orders to the post office, and do you know how they're supposed to be done, and do you have tissue paper? And like those ins and outs of things were still are probably the number one thing for me. So what I have to do personally is have a full-fledged dial to-do list. Like I have to be as polished as I possibly can. This appointment today was in my phone, and it has the location, so it sends me a reminder for when I need to be there and what time and where it's at.
Yeah.
So the traffic and all that stuff to me is important so that I can be as timely as possible, because no one's perfect.
Yeah.
You can't be everywhere.
Yeah.
You can't always be on time, especially you go to other states. I do a lot of business in LA with manufacturing. I go out there, traffic's different.
Oh, yeah.
I'm late to stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
So you have to be prepared for, like, do you know how to follow up then? Because if you're late to things, it's in the follow-up. Do you follow up with the company that you missed your appointment to and let them know, hey, this was the reason, but also here's what I need and here's what I want. It's like those are the challenges for me, is being a one-man show. And so that's the challenge from day one, is like you have all the benefits, all the rewards, but all the work, it doesn't change. So
yeah, I mean, it sounds like the fundamentals are important,
Right.
right? Being disciplined and knowing how to stay on top of all of that. So you said you're a one-woman show. We'll say that. Now, that is another thing I always see when people want to create, you know, whether it's a business venture or whatever. A lot of times they're like, man, I need a team. I need to create a team. I don't know who to bring on board. Was that something you were trying to do early on, or were you like, this is just, it's easier for me to do it my way and myself, or how was that for you?
I don't know if I even thought about it that way. I started it so creatively that I wasn't really thinking the business part. I did all the business stuff to the T with the license and the permits and all that stuff when I started, but I was just kind of thinking, like, get this going and see what happens. And then when I did think at times, like, oh, well, maybe my friends would have fun doing this. The only reason I switched that off is just because it's more important to me to be able to be creative and enjoy that than to struggle with the back and forth. Like I said, I do have Ladies Who Hustle is a business that I have with my friends.
Got you.
That's a lot of personalities and a lot of ideas going into one thing. This is an avenue that it would hinder me to have more thoughts in things when I have 100 t-shirt designs that I haven't done yet. So somebody else coming in with 15 more isn't helpful to me, because there's only so much time and only, you know, so much you can do. So I think that's where I'm at with this. I do collaborate though with people that I care about and people that are doing good work. I try to keep it within a circle of, you know, people who I want to support and who support me. So I work with my friends. I've hired my friends. I've hired my friends' kids, my nephews. I've had them work with me, 8-year-olds. They know how to slang. So.
Yeah. Not for real though, because I mean that I brought that up because I always see that. Like, I had a homegirl who's trying to start something on her own. She's trying to branch out, and she's put so much work into this point that she doesn't feel like it would make sense to bring someone on board who doesn't understand the context of everything that had to go into it. So I can see why, you know, I guess you just got to fill it out. You just got to fill it out.
And you can always get to, like, I won't tell too much. Maybe we'll have to come back when it's more of a thing, but there are some things in the works that I've collaborated with some other people on that I will be able to showcase my brand, and they'll be able to showcase things that they're doing as well in a collaborative, so that we're all making money, but that we're all not creating together, if that makes
Yeah,
sense.
like
So
keeping that individuality.
right,
Yeah.
those are things that I think only come with time, though, because in 5 years of my business, I know that that's the avenue I want to go. I wouldn't have known that before. So
No, definitely.
So how long were you, how long have you been doing SB or SBK's been out?
since February 2013.
5 years.
So yeah,
Yeah.
officially 5 years.
Wow.
I say 5 years, but at the end of the day, this still feels like year one because this is my first year that I'm giving it my all and I don't have a fallback. So that's more pressure and it's also more opportunity because if somebody's asking me details and numbers about my business, I should be able to come with those.
Yeah.
Versus when you have a full-time job and it's a hobby, it's not the same passion, it's not the same drive, and you don't have the same like know-how. So
Yeah, no, definitely. And I did get a chance to kind of look into the story of SBK and how, you know, I guess this is your 5-year anniversary, or when was it? February?
yeah, it was
right?
like February, March.
Yeah. So now I do want to jump into the evolution, right? So you guys currently have is it a physical store or showroom? What how would you describe it?
So I have a showroom. I've had that since May, so it's only been a short period of time.
Okay.
I feel like the only thing that I feel like, and that's a positive and a negative. Negative, that's another rent. The positive is it's my creative space. So it's I can be in there and package orders and play music as loud as I want it. And in the meantime, I have everything at my fingertips all laid out and I'm not using up home space. And then at the same time, if I'm like, hey, I want to sell some stuff, that's a mini pop-up area for myself. So that works all in the same. I kind of play around with how I arrange it. It's like having a very miniature store. You move stuff around how you want to.
Yeah.
And then I also do lashes, so I do lashes out of there too.
I mean, you just jack of all trades right here. Man.
You know, try to get it in every way.
I feel that.
So that for that too, it's like I don't even combine the two. I have complete separate businesses with those, but at the same time, if somebody's in there and they're getting their lashes done, they might not know my brand at all. If they're there though and they're getting up from the chair, they're looking in the mirror, they're like, oh, what's that shirt? And a lot of times that turns into a sale.
It goes good
Or
with the
that
lashes.
Right.
Yeah.
It turns into an interest.
Yeah,
So
that's
it's
good.
like I used to be very wary of connecting all those dots, but the showroom space has definitely been a good, like, you meet people walking down the hall, or people are like, oh, I also go to this service in that same building, and then, you know, you just create love with that. So it's not a store, but it's a stepping stone to a store.
for sure. It's a place for people to pull up
Right.
and have that physical connection
Exactly.
with the brand. I like that. Now, this is a question I do want to ask because I'm always curious about, like, when it comes to fashion, when you're creating your designs, right? And I'm sure you said you got like 100 ready to go in the pipeline, but at the same time, do you feel like maybe sometimes it's okay to take some suggestions from someone who may have a different perspective on your creative or your creations? You know what I mean? You know, a lot of times people might find themselves with just a bunch of yes men, and everybody's like, "Oh, that's dope, that's fire, that's clean, I'd rock that," you know. But then in the back of your mind, I'm like, man, I want someone to challenge me so I can see how I can make this product better. You know what I mean? And so, is that something you're open to?
Oh, okay. So yes and no.
Okay.
So here's the things I'm open to.
Yeah.
Okay, I always wanted to see this hat, this shirt, whatever, in this color. Those are things that are tangible to me. Literally, people will be like, I never thought that you would put this color combo, but if you did, I will buy it. And then I think about that, and sometimes it's immediate or sometimes it takes a while. But when I do, I'm not going to go to that person necessarily if it's a follower on Instagram and hit them up.
Yeah.
But if they see that and they're like, oh my God, they listen to my feedback, that's going to make them not only want to buy it, but that's going to feel like they had some input into my brand that they already fuck with. So I'm like, I appreciate that and I take those things. Here's where it's like, no. When people come up and they're like, why don't you have a South End shirt? Why don't you have a Tacoma shirt? Why don't you have a this shirt? The reason that those are solid no's is anyone that knows me knows that I have fun designing anything. I've designed flyers for people. That's not my job. I'm not a graphic designer. But if somebody likes how something looks, I'll throw it together. It pay me through Cash App. But when it's a design for a shirt, I've designed family reunion shirts. I've designed brand logos and stuff that people are just going to use for their work. I would design a South End, a Tacoma, or whatever someone solicits me to do for the check. But it's not going to be carried on Keeping Up with Cam.com.
For sure. It doesn't align with the brand.
Right. And it doesn't align with the brand, not because it's this is 2018. I'm not a CD versus South End advocate at all. But why, for me, who's one person in the brand who has no affiliation with something, would I sell it just to sell it? Because that's doing a disservice to that community.
Yeah. Definitely. I think it would devalue the brand too, you know, because they're like, oh, what are you doing?
More than even the brand, I think it would devalue like the purpose.
For sure. Yeah,
because
exactly.
somebody from Othello should be like, you know what? I love my neck of the woods so much. I want to do this. Like, like I said, I lived in Seattle. So at times that I've moved, I've lived on Orcas. I've lived on Henderson. I've lived a couple places. I have respect for all of Seattle. And that's why my brand is not a Central District brand.
Yeah, for sure.
I am from the CD and I have pride in it.
Yeah.
But when people look a little deeper, I think they ask different questions than they would ask from afar. Like people that are like, can you come out with a shirt that matches the Valentine's Day forces? Absolutely not. That's going to be a definite no.
Yeah.
But if you put in 2 cents with me, a lot of times you're going to get something from it. If it's just colorways or it's kid stuff, like a lot of times I already have that stuff up my sleeve and I'm coming with it. But I definitely love when people share with me their opinions, their ideas, whatever, because I take it.
I mean, I feel like all criticism is good anyways. At the end of the day, whether they like it or don't like it, they're paying attention. And that's, I mean, that's what you want ultimately. You know what I mean?
All attention is good attention.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, I don't know. Not all attention. Sometimes
Well,
I need my
okay,
I need my privacy
sometimes
sometimes.
it can
You
be
know?
bad.
Yeah. No, that's dope though, and I'm glad to see the evolution. What was so Ladies Who Hustle? Is that the name of the kind of the conglomerate or?
So that's
the group?
our collective,
The collective.
and we do like brunches. So that was the core. We started that I think in 2015. So that's brunches. Pretty much a focus on just women. We have a panel and women from different industries talk about kind of some of the things we're talking about, their trials and tribulations, some of their highlights and their day-to-day things. The last one we had was in LA. We had it at the W Beverly Hills, and we had a pretty dope assortment of people in different walks of life, different age groups. We really focus on that. We really just try with that group. It's separate for me as a business because that's where I get to be a girl and dress up and whatever. I try to focus that SBK is very unisex. I don't do a lot of bright colors and whatever. All my t-shirts are for men and for women, just like Nipsey Hussle's brand or just like any other brand that people don't ask that question to. So I try to stay there. When it's Ladies Who Hustle, that's pink, that's pretty, that's all the fun fuzzy stuff because that's a moment where we get to give women a pat on our backs for doing great things.
Exactly, and that's why I brought it up. I feel like it's a dope way to empower each other.
Right.
You know what I mean? And also learn about who's doing what, you know?
I've learned a lot of things and I do it. So I'll be sitting there taking notes and people in the audience or people on the panel will share something about an app that I never heard about. And then 6 months later, luckily, I try to maintain conversation with people so I can hit them up and say, hey, what was that app you mentioned? And that's stuff that has done a lot for my business. Like literally there was an app that was for price markups and like it was like math but to do with retail. I thought about that and it was a girl, Nicole Linnell, who has a huge brand right now, and she started House of Chic LA, which they hit $1 million in sales in their first year.
House of Chic, what is that, like another clothing store?
Yeah, it's a women's online clothing boutique based out of LA.
Okay.
And so her and her partner at the time, they hit $1 million in sales in their first year. Like that's really hard to do.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That sounds nuts. So from her, I'm like, I'm taking notes of anything you're talking about. Why not?
Yeah.
And she's doing even bigger things this year. The last person we had, Maxie J, she just opened a new store. She had a store in Melrose. She has a new store. She was featured in Forbes. So trying to focus on people that are super powerful because everybody needs those tidbits, you know? And you need those connections.
Support is key, man.
Right.
For sure.
It's all about networking, for sure. You know, you never know, like, how it could come back to help you, pretty much, you know? It all comes back full circle.
No, definitely. And that's why I always say that, like, even with this platform, we always want to make sure that we're highlighting people who are doing things, right? So people know who they can go to for certain things. Not just fashion, but, you know, we've had guests up here who've launched their own mobile apps. And, you know, and representation is everything too, right? You need to know how you need to know that you can approach someone who looks like you,
right?
Who can probably relate to you a little bit more than someone else who's not from your culture, right? Now, I do want to also touch on, like, what are some things you got on the horizon now? You sound like you got a lot going on. So
Yeah.
I mean, what can we look forward to, you know, in the near future for SBK and keeping up with Cam and Ladies Who Hustle and everything else you got going on?
Definitely some big things coming this fall. Like I said, I'm not gonna spill all the beans right now, but I will keep you guys in the loop with that. For sure, new merchandise to come. I haven't done kids stuff in a while, so I'm gonna get going on that and make sure that's out there for the people.
Yes, we love the kids, man.
Right, everybody has kids. Somebody has a nephew. I don't have kids, but you know, everybody
they about to get back to school. You know, kids got to get fly, man.
They need the stuff.
That shit matters, man.
Yeah,
for real.
So I have all the suggestions. My 8-year-old nephews, like I said, they helped me before. They know how much everything costs. They're the best salespeople I have.
Hey,
They did a pop-up with me at South Center. And when I tell you, it was booming. And they're like passing out. We had snacks. We had all kind of stuff. They were walking in the mall, like telling people, come in here. We got stuff.
Yeah.
And they are the number one like group that'll ask me like, are you going to do the sweatsuits in this color? And I need them to be in my size. And they this and that. So I definitely got to keep my ear to the elementary school and I take so I'll be doing a lot of things with that. I'm definitely always open to like mentorship too, and there's people that hit me up in my DMs. I'm always open to that. I mean, I can't build a plan for you, but one thing I will shout out is SCORE. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, but it's a small business association sponsors SCORE, so it's right on 4th Avenue. It's if anyone's needing help with their business, Google it. Get yourself a mentor. Do the workshops there. My mentor, he's amazing. He's if I could guess, he might be like 75. I don't know how old he is, but he is like, he'll text me, call me, email me with any question I have. And if I'll send him, like, for example, if I'm like getting ready for taxes and I'm like, here's all my tax information, he will go through it so thoroughly and respond and say no. Like one day I missed a month, like little stuff. He's like, you missed May. And then he'll redo the whole entire thing and send it back to me and then send his notes. That's free. So that's something, if I knew that 5 years ago, I can only imagine where I'd be now.
And that's SCORE, is that SCORE.com? Where can people find this information?
Google SCORE or Small Business Association, and then the Seattle chapter will link you right there. All the services for mentorship is free.
Wow.
Only thing that's not free is the classes. Some of them are as low as like $20, $45, but then there's free ones too. So those are just things that I'm using right now to try to dial down everything.
Yeah.
Because if I do have people that I decide to mentor, I want to make sure I'm on it. And I know exactly what I'm doing and talking about, so I'm giving them the right information.
Yeah, you're not leading them down the wrong path, pretty much.
Exactly.
That's dope, man. I didn't even know that existed.
I know.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It's like a huge eye-opener, and they have people there focused on your industry. So maybe that person doesn't specifically sell clothes, but in his 75 years of life, he's helped people with businesses that are similar. So he's like, it's a dope option to have, and having that as well as people like you guys who can give other people connections. Anyone who's watching that needs business advice, hit them up. Hit me up. I'm more than happy to answer any questions.
And we'll make sure to plug, all the handles and ways they can contact you. Do you got something you want?
I mean, well, speaking of advice, what advice would you give somebody like that's trying to dip into the fashion industry?
One, do your research. That's the biggest thing I could say. The one thing, and I probably should have mentioned this before, but the Coco Chanel thing, reeling back to that, if anyone looks at my line from a fashion standpoint, from a high fashion standpoint, I worked at Nordstrom. I sold designer handbags and designer products, so my brain is designer. So the Central District logo, the accent on the E is because it replicates the Cėline Paris logo.
Yeah, I did see that.
The SCA shirt that I have is like Yves Saint Laurent. The GUOP is like the Gucci shirt. The Off-White Bricks is like the Off-White shirt. I used to have a shirt that said Pretty Fabulous that was like Prada. I could go on and on. I can't remember all the ones that are like, even this, the Hustle. This is, does anyone know what this looks like or is inspired by?
Oh, man.
Meek Mill did a Savage collection.
I seen. Okay, I was about to say.
So
I
the
seen
Savage collection he did had the money sign on the S.
Okay.
He mostly did like bathing suits, so that's why I did this one.
Okay.
And it was like before he went to jail. But the Philly people will probably look at it and be like, oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Anyone else, maybe you wouldn't notice, but that's my spin on stuff. So a lot of people want to have the same niche. Maybe they have the same style, the same look, the same customers even. But if you do your research and you find something that you're passionate about, you're going to come across different no matter what. I have, like, everybody has the same T-shirts, the same sweats, the same beanies, the same snapbacks, the same dad caps. It's all the same. But if your touch on something is different, it's a blank canvas to you.
That's real.
So,
I feel you.
That's real.
passion first and anything's possible.
I like that.
I like that too.
I like that. Well, okay. Well, this is my last question for you, and I always ask this question for every guest that we bring through here. It's just a great way to sum up everything we've discussed, but also what's on the horizon and what's coming up for you. So if you can, what's one word that you can use to describe what keeps you on the up and up?
I knew this was going to be hard. Hustle. I'll say that. Not to even be cliche, not because I have my hustle attire on, but hustle is what you make it. Everybody can have hustle within them. Everybody can make money, sell things, do stuff, acquire, whatever you call that. But the reason it's in each person is different. How you're going to get it is different. The lengths that you'll go to is different. What you're going to do when you get it is different. So for me, hustle keeps me on the up and up.
That's real. You're the third person to use that word.
Oh,
That's lit. No, but that's
a different word.
But that's a good thing, though. That's a good thing. For a while, we've had, like, this person had one word, they had a different one, they had a different one. But hustle has been pretty
theme.
good. Yeah, I mean, it's a popular one, and it's necessary too. So I like that. I like how you explain that too. Well, yeah, I mean, we do want to thank you for coming to the show, spending some time with us, sharing your story. We hope that people who are listening and viewing can draw from your story and pick up some gems, some jewelry. You know what I'm saying? Hopefully you drop them around
yourself.
Here. Yes. Any shout outs, any people you want to shout out before we kind of wrap this up?
I just give a shout out to my friends and family. Everybody knows who they are. But being that it's my 5 year at this point, I got to give kudos to them, kudos to God for being at the point I'm at, because a lot of people start things and then fail. Even if there's bumps on the road, I don't have a plan, option, or even view that I can or will fail. So at this point, I'm ready for the next 5 years, triple, double, quadruple some numbers.
Let's get it.
Yeah.
And come back and talk about that.
Let's get it. We're going to stay on the up and up with that. So thank you, Camille. We appreciate you. And it's officially, I think it's officially okay for me to say that Camille is officially a member of the Up and Up.
Definitely.
We get a round of applause. Yes. Thank you.
My little badge of honor.